A famous actor walks into a rundown seaside inn and hears the voice of the girl he abandoned 14 years ago. He booked the cheapest room in town to hide from the world. She accepted the online reservation without checking the guest's name. 14 years of silence, and now they stand less than 6 feet apart in a lobby that smells like burnt coffee and damp wood. She doesn't ask him to leave, but she doesn't say his name either. The question isn't whether he'll stay. The question is, who will walk away first this time? The windshield wipers dragged across glass in slow, defeated strokes. Rain blurred the coastal highway into streaks of gray and black, the kind of November storm that turned Oregon into a watercolor painting left out in the weather. Luca Moreau gripped the rental car's steering wheel and tried to remember the last time he'd driven himself anywhere. 3 months? 6? Someone always drove him now. Someone always opened doors, carried bags, spoke to strangers so he wouldn't have to. The GPS announced his arrival in a tone that suggested even satellites were unimpressed by Shore's End. He pulled into the gravel lot beside a 2-story building that looked like it had been beautiful once, maybe 30 years ago. White paint peeled from the clapboard siding. The porch sagged on one end. A hand-painted sign swung from rusted chains. Bennett's Inn, vacancy. Luca killed the engine. The rain drummed harder against the roof. He'd chosen this place because it was the cheapest listing within 50 miles, because it had no reviews, because the website was so outdated he knew whoever ran it wouldn't recognize his face from the thumbnail photo that came with every credit card transaction. Because 14 years ago, Isla Bennett had told him she'd never leave this town, and he'd left anyway. The door to the inn opened. A woman stepped onto the porch, one hand shielding a clipboard from the rain. She wore a canvas jacket 2 sizes too large and boots that had seen better decades. Luca sat very still. She hadn't looked up yet. She was checking something on the clipboard, her dark hair pulled back in a braid that dripped water down her collar. The porch light caught her profile, the slope of her nose, the set of her jaw. He'd kissed that jaw once, in the dark bed of his truck, parked half a mile from here on the beach access road. The woman looked up, looked straight at his windshield. Luca stopped breathing. "You going to sit in there all night?" Her voice carried through the rain, flat and practical. Luca grabbed his duffel bag from the passenger seat, the bag he'd packed himself at 4 in the morning, throwing in whatever he could grab before his manager woke up and asked questions Luca didn't want to answer. He stepped out into the rain. It soaked through his jacket in seconds, cold and relentless. Isla stood at the top of the porch steps, clipboard tucked under one arm now. She didn't move to help him, didn't smile, didn't say his name. "You're the 6:30 check-in?" she asked. "Yeah," his voice came out rough. He cleared his throat. "Yeah, Moreau. I booked online." "I know. You paid in advance." She turned and walked inside without waiting to see if he'd follow. Luca climbed the steps. The wood groaned under his weight. He caught the smell of the place as he crossed the threshold. Damp wood, like he'd expected. But also coffee, burned and bitter, and something else. Lavender, maybe. Or just old fabric softener clinging to curtains that needed replacing. The lobby was small, a desk that looked like it had been salvaged from a school, a bulletin board covered in faded takeout menus and tide charts, 2 mismatched armchairs facing a fireplace that wasn't lit. Isla walked behind the desk and set down the clipboard. She didn't look at him. Her hands moved with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Key from the drawer, form from the stack, pen that clicked 3 times before the ink caught. Room 4, upstairs, end of the hall, checkouts at 11. Breakfast is 7 to 9 if you want it. Coffee's always on. She slid the form across the desk. "Sign here." Luca stepped closer. The desk was between them now, barely 3 feet of scarred wood in space that felt like miles. He picked up the pen. His hand hovered over the signature line. "Isla." She looked up. Her eyes were the same, Gray-green, like the ocean outside, but colder now. Or maybe just older. Don't, she said quietly. Don't what? Don't say my name like that. You're a guest. I'm the owner. That's all this is. She took the form before he could sign it, turned it around, checked something on the back. You have luggage in the car? Just this. He lifted the duffel bag slightly. Fine, go up. Second door on the right. Isla. Room 4, she repeated louder this time. Second door on the right. Do you need directions or can you find it yourself? The room was exactly what he'd paid for. A bed with a quilt that had been washed too many times. A nightstand with a lamp that buzzed when he turned it on. A window that looked out over the parking lot and, beyond that, the dark shape of the ocean. Luca dropped his bag on the floor and sat on the edge of the bed. The springs creaked. He put his head in his hands. Stupid. Coming here was stupid. What did he think would happen? That she'd see him and fall into his arms? That 14 years would dissolve like sugar in water? She'd looked at him like he was a stranger. No, worse, like he was a customer. A knock on the door pulled him upright. Yeah? The door opened. Isla stood in the hallway holding a towel and a bar of soap still wrapped in paper. Forgot to stock the bathroom, she said. No apology in her voice, just statement of fact. She stepped inside, walked past him to the tiny bathroom, set the towel and soap on the edge of the sink. When she turned around, he was standing. They were closer now. Close enough that he could see the freckles on her cheekbones. Close enough to notice she'd cut her hair shorter since the last time he'd seen her. Close enough to remember exactly how tall she was, how her shoulder fit perfectly under his arm when they used to walk the beach at low tide. You knew, he said. Knew what? My name. When you saw it on the reservation, you knew it was me. Isla crossed her arms. I see a lot of names. Not this one. Not Moreau. She held his gaze for 3 long seconds. Then she shrugged. I didn't delete the booking. That should tell you enough. Why not? Because it's my business. I don't turn away paying customers. She moved toward the door, stopped with her hand on the frame. And because I wanted to see if you'd actually show up, or if you'd bail again. The words landed like a slap. Isla. Don't. She cut him off with a raised hand. You want to stay here? Fine. You paid for a week. But I'm not doing this. I'm not sitting around the fireplace and rehashing the past. You're a guest. I'm the owner. You leave your key on the desk when you check out. That's the entire relationship. I didn't come here to hurt you. She laughed. It was a short, bitter sound. You didn't come here for me at all, did you? You came here because you needed to hide. I just happened to be in the building. Luca opened his mouth, closed it, because she was right. Good night, Mr. Moreau, Isla said. Breakfast is at 7. She closed the door before he could respond. The coffee was terrible, burned and weak at the same time, like someone had made it 4 hours ago and forgotten to turn off the pot. Luca drank it anyway. He sat at the small table in the corner of the dining room, if it could be called that, really just an extension of the lobby with 3 tables and a sideboard that held the coffee pot, a basket of store-bought muffins, and a stack of paper napkins. Isla moved through the space like he wasn't there. She refilled the muffin basket, wiped down the other tables, checked something on her phone and frowned at whatever she saw. She wore the same canvas jacket from last night. Her hair was still in that braid, but pieces had come loose around her face. She looked tired, not just morning tired, bone-deep tired, the kind that settles into your shoulders and stays. More coffee? She asked, not looking at him. I'm good. She walked past his table to the window, adjusted the curtain so it hung straight. He watched her hands. They moved with the same careful precision they always had. Isla never rushed, never fumbled. Even when they were 18 and figuring out how bodies fit together for the first time, she'd moved like she knew exactly what she was doing. The memory hit him sideways. Her hands on his chest, the way she'd laughed when his hands shook. You're staring, Isla said, still facing the window. Sorry. I mean it. If you can't handle basic boundaries, you can find another place to stay. Luca set down his coffee cup. I'm not trying to make this harder. Then stop looking at me like that. Like what? She turned around. Like you're remembering something I've spent 14 years trying to forget. The words sat between them, sharp and true. An older couple came down the stairs, their voices bright with vacation energy. Isla's expression shifted instantly. She smiled at them, asked about their plans for the day, recommended a hiking trail that wouldn't be too muddy. Luca stood and carried his cup to the sideboard. He rinsed it in the small sink, set it on the rack to dry. When he turned around, Isla was watching him with an expression he couldn't read. You don't have to do that, she said. Old habit. Something flickered across her face. Then it was gone. The rain didn't stop for 3 days. Luca spent most of his time in his room, staring at his phone and ignoring the 17 missed calls from his manager. On the 4th morning, the sun broke through, weak and watery, but enough to turn the ocean from gray to silver. Luca walked down to the beach, the same beach where he'd kissed Isla for the first time, where he'd told her he was leaving for LA and she'd said she understood, where he'd promised to come back and they'd both known he was lying. The pier was still there, older now, the wood darker, some of the planks replaced with new lumber that didn't match. He walked to the end and sat down, legs dangling over the edge. A memory surfaced, unbidden. Isla at 17, sitting in this exact spot. She'd been wearing his jacket because she never brought her own. She'd been telling him about the colleges that had accepted her. 4 schools, all of them good, all of them far from here. I'm not going, she'd said, watching the waves. Why not? Because my mom can't run this place alone. Because Shore's End is where I belong. He'd kissed her then, partly because he loved her, partly because he didn't know what else to do with the guilt of knowing he'd leave her behind. Footsteps on the pier pulled him back to the present. He didn't need to turn around to know who it was. He could feel her presence the way you feel a storm coming. Isla stopped a few feet away. She held 2 paper cups of coffee. Thought you might want something drinkable, she said. The inn coffee is shit. I noticed. She handed him a cup and sat down beside him. Not close, but close enough. They drank in silence. The coffee was good. From the place in town, probably. The one that used to be a bookstore. I didn't come back to mess up your life, Luca said finally. I know. I just needed to disappear for a while. I know that too. Isla set her cup down on the pier. You think I don't read the news? I saw the photos, the headlines. Whatever happened in Vancouver looked ugly. He'd forgotten how much she saw, how she always noticed things other people missed. It was a misunderstanding, he said. The media made it bigger than it was. They always do. She pulled her knees up to her chest, wrapped her arms around them. You going back? Have to. I'm supposed to start shooting again in 10 days. So this is just a pit stop? Yeah, Isla nodded slowly. At least you're honest about it this time. The words stung. He deserved them. The photographer found him on the 7th day. Luca was walking back from the general store with bread and cheese, the kind of simple groceries he never bought anymore because someone always did it for him. The camera clicked before he registered the movement. A man in a black jacket stepping out from behind a parked truck. Luca Moreau. Shit, I knew it was you. Luca's stomach dropped. He kept walking. Wrong person. Come on, man, don't insult me. I've been following you since the horizon. Just one shot. Confirm you're in Shore's End, and I'll leave you alone. I'm not confirming anything. The camera clicked again, and again. The photographer jogged to keep up with him. Is it true you checked into rehab? Or are you hiding from the Vancouver thing? People are saying you punched a director. Others are saying it's a breakdown. What's the real story? Luca walked faster. The inn was 2 blocks away. If he could just get inside. Who's the girl? He stopped, turned around. What girl? The photographer grinned. Dark hair, Runs the inn where you're staying. She your flavor of the week? Or is this something deeper? Stay away from her. So it is something deeper. The camera clicked. This is gold. Movie star hiding out with small-town ex-girlfriend. That's a headline. Luca stepped closer, lowering his voice to something dangerous. Listen to me very carefully. You publish anything about her, I will make your life very difficult. You threatening me? I'm giving you advice. Walk away. The photographer considered this. Then he shrugged. Fine, but you can't hide forever, man. Someone else will find you eventually. He walked away, still snapping photos over his shoulder. Luca stood in the middle of the sidewalk, watching him go. His hands were shaking. Isla was replacing a light bulb in the hallway when he burst through the front door. We have a problem, he said. She turned around, still holding the dead bulb. What kind of problem? A photographer. He knows I'm here. He knows about you. Her expression didn't change. And? And he's going to write something. About us. About why I'm staying here. There is no us, Isla said calmly. She climbed down from the stepladder, dropped the old bulb in a trash bag. You're a guest. That's not a story. You don't understand how these people work. They'll dig into your life. They'll call you, show up at your door, make up whatever narrative gets them clicks. Isla folded the stepladder and leaned it against the wall. I've lived in this town my whole life. People here already know everything about me. A photographer from LA doesn't scare me. Isla, what do you want me to do, Luca? Kick you out? Would that make you feel better? I want to protect you from this. She laughed, not the bitter laugh from before, something softer, almost sad. You can't protect me. You couldn't 14 years ago and you can't now. She walked past him toward the front desk. But I appreciate the warning. That's it? What else is there? Luca followed her. Let me handle this. I'll call my publicist, get ahead of the story, make sure they leave you out of it. Isla opened the reservation book, ran her finger down a column of dates. You have 3 days left on your booking. After that, you're gone anyway. I can deal with 3 days of curiosity. What if it's more than 3 days? Then I'll deal with that too. She looked up at him. I'm not some delicate thing that needs saving. I run a business. I handle problems. This is just another problem. He wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she didn't understand the scale of what was coming. But the set of her jaw told him she wouldn't listen. A voice called from upstairs. One of the other guests asking about clean towels. I have to go, Isla said. Lock the door when you leave for the day. The spare key is under the blue pot on the porch. She walked away before he could say anything else. Luca found out by accident. He was coming back from another walk on the beach, trying to clear his head, when he saw the car in the parking lot. A sleek sedan that didn't belong in Shore's End. A man in a suit standing beside it, shaking Isla's hand. Luca hung back, close enough to see but not be seen. The man handed Isla a folder. She opened it, scanned the first page, nodded. They talked for a few more minutes. Then the man got back in his car and drove away. Isla stood there for a long moment, staring at the folder in her hands. Then she walked back inside. Luca waited 5 minutes before following. He found her in the office behind the front desk, the folder open on the desk in front of her. She was reading something, her expression unreadable. What was that about? He asked from the doorway. Isla looked up, startled. Then her face closed off. None of your business. Was that a buyer? She closed the folder. I said it's none of your business. You're selling the inn. So what if I am? Luca stepped into the office. Why? Because it's time. Because I'm tired. Because this place is falling apart and I don't have the money to fix it. She stood up, crossed her arms. Not that I owe you an explanation. When? Closing is after the winter season, 2 months, give or take. And then what? You leave Shore's End? Isla's laugh was hollow. Where would I even go? No, I'll stay. Get a job at one of the bigger hotels down the coast. Something that doesn't require me to fix the plumbing at 2 in the morning. Luca felt something crack open in his chest. The inn was hers, had always been hers. Even when it belonged to her mother, everyone knew Isla would take over someday. The idea of her working for someone else, in someone else's building, felt fundamentally wrong. "Does it have to be now?" he asked. "Yes, the offer is good. Better than I'll get if I wait another year and the roof caves in." She picked up the folder, held it against her chest like armor. "Why do you care?" "Because this place is yours. It was my mother's. I just kept it running after she died." Isla's voice went quiet. "And I'm tired of keeping things running that should have stopped a long time ago." The words hung in the air between them, and Luca knew she wasn't just talking about the inn. "Isla, your 3 days are almost up," she said, cutting him off. "Maybe you should think about checking out early. Save us both the awkwardness of a long goodbye." She walked out of the office, leaving him standing there with the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on his chest. Luca woke to the sound of water rushing somewhere below his room. Not rain, something closer. Something wrong. He pulled on jeans and a t-shirt and followed the sound downstairs. The lobby was dark except for the glow from under the office door. When he pushed it open, he found Isla on her knees in front of the utility closet, water pooling around her boots. "Shit," she muttered, wrenching at something with a pipe wrench. "Shit, shit, shit. What happened?" "Pipe burst, old copper. I've been meaning to replace this section for 6 months." She pulled harder on the wrench. Her hands slipped. The tool clattered to the floor. "God damn it." Luca knelt beside her. "Let me. I've got it. Isla, let me help." She sat back on her heels, breathing hard. Her hair had come loose from the braid, wet strands sticking to her face. She looked at him for a long moment, then handed him the wrench. "Turn it counterclockwise, hard. The threads are corroded." Luca positioned himself in front of the pipe. The water was cold, soaking through his shirt as he leaned in close. He gripped the wrench and pulled. Nothing. He adjusted his stance, used his weight as leverage, pulled again. The fitting gave with a grinding screech. Water stopped gushing, reduced to a trickle. "There's a shut-off valve," Isla said, pointing. "Red handle. Turn it all the way to the right." He did. The trickle stopped. Silence filled the small closet. Just their breathing and the drip of water from the pipes. "Thank you," Isla said quietly. "You're welcome." She stood, surveying the damage. Water had spread across half the office floor, seeping into the edges of the carpet. "I need to get towels. Soak this up before it ruins the subfloor." "I'll help." "You don't have to." "I know." He stood, water dripping from his sleeves. "But I'm already wet." Something shifted in her expression. Not softness, exactly, but not the wall she'd been keeping up either. They worked in silence. Isla brought down every towel in the linen closet. They laid them across the floor, pressed them down with their feet, wrung them out in the utility sink. Over and over, the repetitive motion, the quiet focus. It reminded Luca of being 21 again, helping Isla's mother repaint the second-floor hallway while Isla made sandwiches and brought them paint-splattered lunch on paper plates. "You're thinking about something," Isla said. "Your mom. The summer she made us repaint the yellow room." Isla paused, a soaked towel in her hands. She hated that yellow, said it looked like a bruise. "It did. You told her it looked like sunshine, and she laughed so hard she nearly fell off the ladder." Luca smiled at the memory. She was easy to make laugh. "Yeah," Isla's voice went soft. "She was." They finished soaking up the water. Isla disappeared into the office and came back with an oscillating fan, plugged it in, angled it at the damp floor. "That should do it," she said. "I'll call a plumber in the morning. Have them replace the whole section." "How much will that cost?" Isla shrugged. "Doesn't matter now. It's the buyer's problem in 2 months." She said it casually, but Luca heard the edge underneath, the resignation. "You really want to sell?" he said. I really want to stop fixing things that break faster than I can afford to replace them. She pulled the hair tie from her wrist, started gathering her hair back into some semblance of order. This place has been falling apart for 10 years. I've been putting band-aids on bullet wounds. It's not that bad. You've been here a week. You don't know what it's like. She tied off the braid, tugged it tight. The roof leaks in 3 places. The water heater is older than I am. The foundation is shifting. I spend more time maintaining this place than I do actually running it. So fix it. Get a loan. Renovate. Isla looked at him like he'd suggested she fly to the moon. With what collateral? The bank won't loan me money for a property that's barely worth what I owe on it. And even if they did, I'd be working the next 20 years just to pay it back. She shook her head. No, selling is the smart choice, the only choice. Luca wanted to argue, wanted to tell her there had to be another way, but he'd been gone too long. He didn't know her finances, didn't know what she'd been carrying alone all these years. I'm sorry, he said. For what? For not being here, when your mom died, when you needed help. Isla's expression went carefully neutral. You were building a career. I didn't expect you to drop everything. You should have. No. She turned off the fan, unplugged it. I shouldn't have expected anything from you at all. That was my mistake. The words hit harder than she probably intended, or maybe exactly as hard as she meant them to. Luca couldn't sleep. He lay in bed listening to the ocean and thinking about pipes and towels and the way Isla's hands had looked, red and raw from wringing out cold water. Around 2 in the morning, he gave up. He pulled on a sweatshirt and went downstairs. The light was on in the kitchen. Through the doorway, he could see Isla sitting at the small table, a mug cradled in her hands. She wasn't drinking from it, just holding it, staring at nothing. He almost turned around, almost went back upstairs, but something stopped him. Can't sleep either? He asked from the doorway. Isla looked up. She didn't seem surprised to see him. Too much on my mind. Want company? She considered this, then nodded at the chair across from her. Luca sat. Up close, he could see the exhaustion in her face, the shadows under her eyes, the way her shoulders curved forward like she'd been carrying something heavy too long. Tea? She asked. Sure. She stood, poured hot water from a kettle on the stove into another mug, dunked a tea bag in it, set it in front of him without ceremony. They sat in silence. The kitchen was warm, the kind of warm that comes from old radiators in poor insulation. It smelled like chamomile and something else. Cinnamon, maybe. I used to do this with my mom, Isla said finally. Sit here in the middle of the night, drink tea, not talk. Sounds nice. It was. She traced the rim of her mug with one finger. She died 5 years ago, heart attack. She was pulling weeds in the garden and just stopped. I'm sorry, I should have. Don't. Isla held up a hand. I don't want your apologies. Sometimes I still expect her to walk through that door. Ask me if I've eaten. Tell me I'm working too hard. Luca nodded. He didn't know what to say. Didn't know how to bridge the gap between them. Why did you really come here? Isla asked. I told you I needed to disappear. But why here? There are 1,000 places you could have gone. Places where nobody knew your name, where there was no history. Luca looked down at his tea. The surface rippled slightly from the vibration of the refrigerator. I don't know. Maybe I wanted to see if it was still here, if you were still here. And now that you know? Now I don't know what to do with that information. Isla was quiet for a long time. Then she said, You broke my heart. The words were simple, matter of fact, but they landed like stones. I know. You told me you loved me. You told me we'd figure it out. And then you got on a plane and I didn't hear from you for 6 months. She looked at him now, really looked at him. Do you know what that did to me? Isla, I waited for you. Like an idiot, I waited. I made excuses. Told myself you were busy, that you'd call when you could. That distance didn't mean anything. Her voice cracked slightly. And then I saw you in a magazine, at some premiere, with someone else. Luca's chest tightened. He remembered that night. The actress whose name he couldn't even recall now. The publicist who'd set it up. The cameras. The smile he'd forced. That wasn't real, he said. It didn't matter, real or not, I saw it. And I knew. You'd moved on. You'd probably moved on months before that. I was just too stupid to accept it. You weren't stupid. Then what was I? She stood abruptly, walked to the sink, poured out her untouched tea. Because I spent 2 years thinking maybe you'd come back. Maybe you'd realize you made a mistake. And then you didn't. And I had to figure out how to stop waiting. Luca stood too. I did make a mistake. Isla turned around. Don't. I did. Leaving you like that, not calling. I was 21 and terrified, and I thought if I just kept moving forward, I wouldn't have to feel how much it hurt to leave you behind. And did it work? No. Good. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. I'm glad you hurt too. They stood there 10 feet apart, the kitchen table between them like a border neither of them could cross. I think about you, Luca said quietly. More than I should. More than makes sense after all this time. Don't tell me that. Why not? Because you're leaving in 2 days. Because thinking about me doesn't change anything. Because I spent too long getting over you to let you back in now. What if I stayed? The question hung in the air. Isla stared at him. You're not going to stay. What if I did? You won't. You have a life, a career, people depending on you. You're not going to throw that away for a rundown inn and a woman who doesn't trust you anymore. Maybe I would. Isla shook her head. No, you came here to hide, to catch your breath. But you'll go back. You always do. You always will. She walked toward the door, stopped beside him, close enough that he could smell the lavender in her hair. And I'll still be here, just like last time, just like every time. She left him standing in the kitchen, the tea growing cold on the table, the almost of everything they could have said filling the space like smoke. Luca checked out at 11. He packed his duffel bag, stripped the bed like Isla had asked guests to do, left the key on the nightstand. When he came downstairs, he was at the front desk. She looked up, saw the bag in his hand, and something flickered across her face before she smoothed it away. All set? She asked. Yeah. She pulled up something on the computer, printed a receipt. Email okay for this? Sure. She handed him the paper anyway. Their fingers didn't touch. There's a motel about 15 miles south, she said. Clean, cheaper than here. I can call ahead if you want. Luca folded the receipt, put it in his pocket. I'm not going to a motel. Luca, I'm staying in town. There's a vacation rental near the marina. I already booked it. Isla's jaw tightened. For how long? Another week, maybe 2. Why? Because I'm not ready to leave yet. She closed the laptop with more force than necessary. You can't stay here because of some conversation we had at 2 in the morning. That's not how this works. I'm not staying because of the conversation. He set his bag down. I'm staying because I need to figure some things out. And I can do that here as easily as I can do it in LA. What things? Whether I want to go back at all. Isla stared at him. You're not serious. I am. You're going to throw away your entire career because of a midlife crisis? I'm 34. That's not midlife. Don't joke. Her voice went sharp. You worked your entire life to get where you are. You don't just walk away from that. Why not? Because it's insane. Because you'll regret it. Because... She stopped herself, took a breath. Because running away from your problems doesn't fix them. It just moves them somewhere else. The words hit their target. Luca felt the sting of them. Maybe, he said quietly, but I'm still staying. Isla picked up a stack of papers, straightened them even though they were already straight. Fine, stay, but don't expect me to be part of whatever soul-searching you're doing. I have a business to run and a sale to close. I know. She walked away, disappearing into the office. The door closed with a soft click. Luca picked up his bag and left. The vacation rental was smaller than the in-room, a studio above a surf shop, furnished with IKEA minimalism and decorated with framed photos of waves. It smelled like salt and detergent. Luca dropped his bag on the floor and called his manager. "Where the hell have you been?" David's voice came through tight with frustration. "Do you know how many fires I've been putting out? The studio is threatening to sue. Your co-star gave an interview saying you're difficult to work with, and TMZ is running a story about you hiding out with some mystery woman in Oregon. I need more time." "You don't have more time. You have a contract. You have obligations. Get your ass back here or I can't protect you anymore." "I don't want to be protected." Silence. Then, "What does that mean?" "It means I'm tired, David. I'm tired of the bullshit. The interviews where I can't say anything real. The people who only talk to me because of what I can do for them. The whole goddamn machine. This is the job. You knew that going in. Maybe I don't want the job anymore." "Luca," David's voice went careful, "are you having some kind of breakdown? Because if you are, we can get you help. Therapist, publicist, whatever you need. But you cannot just quit. That's not how this works." "I'm not quitting. I'm just taking a break." A break is 2 weeks in Cabo, not disappearing to Nowheresville and ignoring your contracts. Luca rubbed his eyes. "I'll call the studio, apologize, work something out." "When?" "Soon." That's not an answer. "It's the only one I have right now." He hung up before David could argue. Then he turned off his phone and threw it on the bed. Luca found himself at the hardware store 2 days later, standing in the plumbing aisle and staring at copper pipes. He didn't plan to be there. He'd been walking through town, no destination in mind, and his feet had carried him to the blue awning and the smell of sawdust and metal. "You need help finding something?" The clerk was older, maybe 70, with hands that looked like they'd built half the town. "Just looking." "Looking for anything specific?" Luca glanced at the pipes. "What would it cost to replumb a 2-story building? Old copper, needs full replacement." The clerk let out a low whistle. "Depends on the building. Square footage? How many bathrooms?" 6 rooms, 3 bathrooms, kitchen, utility closet." "You talking about Bennett's Inn?" Luca looked at him. "You know it?" "Everyone knows it. Built in 1962. Isla's grandfather did the original plumbing himself. Solid work for the time, but those pipes are 60 years old now. Surprised they've lasted this long." The clerk pulled out a calculator, started punching numbers. "Full replumb? You're looking at 20, maybe 25,000. More if the walls are bad and you need drywall work after." $25,000. Luca spent more than that on a watch last year. A watch he'd worn twice and then forgotten about. "What about the roof?" he asked. The clerk raised an eyebrow. "You thinking about buying the place?" "Just curious." "Uh-huh." The clerk didn't look convinced. "Roof's a bigger job. Needs new shingles, probably new underlayment. Flashing around the chimney is shot. You're looking at another 30,000 minimum. Could be 40 if there's structural damage." Luca did the math. 50 to 65,000 to make the inn functional again. Another 20 for cosmetic updates, paint, furniture, marketing, less than he'd made on his last film. A fraction of what he had sitting in investments he never looked at. "Thanks," he said. "You want me to write up an estimate? I could send someone out to look at it properly." "No, just thinking." The clerk nodded slowly. "You're the actor, aren't you? The one staying at Isla's place." "Was staying there." "Same difference in a town this size." The clerk leaned against the counter. "She's a good kid, been through a lot, deserves better than what she's got." "I know." "Do you?" The clerk's gaze was sharp. Because from where I'm standing, you look like another complication she doesn't need. Luca didn't have an answer for that. He showed up at the inn the next morning with a toolbox he'd bought at the hardware store and a YouTube playlist on replacing plumbing fixtures. Isla was in the garden, pulling weeds from the beds that ran along the front porch. She looked up when she heard his footsteps on the gravel. "What are you doing here?" "I talked to Jim at the hardware store. He said your kitchen faucet has been leaking for 6 months. It's a slow leak." "Slow leaks add up." He held up the toolbox. "Let me fix it." "Luca, I know how to fix a faucet. My first apartment in LA, everything broke constantly. I learned or I lived in squalor." He walked past her toward the porch. "Where's the shutoff valve?" "Under the sink. But you don't have to." "I know I don't have to. I want to." He found the kitchen, found the leak. A steady drip from the base of the faucet, staining the porcelain. The kind of thing that seems small until you realized it had been wasting water for half a year. Isla appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. "You're really doing this?" "Yep." "Why?" "Because you helped me when I needed it. Because I have nothing else to do today. Because I'm good with my hands, and this is something I can actually fix." He turned off the water, started unscrewing the faucet base. "Pick whichever reason you like." She watched him work for a minute. Then she disappeared and came back with a glass of water, set it on the counter beside him. "Thanks," he said. "Don't make a mess." "I'll try not to." She left him alone after that. He could hear her moving through the inn, vacuuming upstairs, talking to guests, the normal rhythm of her day. It took him 40 minutes to replace the valve and reassemble the faucet. When he turned the water back on, it ran clear and steady, no drips. Isla came back to inspect. She turned the handle, watched the water flow, turned it off. Silence. "It's fixed," she said. "Told you I could do it." She looked at him, really looked at him, and for a moment the wall between them seemed thinner. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You're welcome." After the faucet, he started noticing other things. The loose board on the porch steps, the window in room 3 that wouldn't open, the light switch in the hallway that sparked when you flipped it. He came back the next day, and the day after that, always in the morning, always with something specific to fix. Isla stopped arguing after the third visit. She'd just point him toward the problem and go about her work. They fell into a pattern. He'd arrive around 9, she'd have coffee waiting, the terrible inn coffee that somehow tasted better when she poured it. They'd talk while he worked, small things, safe things, the weather, the guests, a seal someone spotted near the pier. Not the past, never the past. One morning he was replacing the weather stripping on the front door when she sat down on the porch steps beside him. "You're procrastinating," she said. "From what?" "Going back to your life." Luca pressed the rubber seal into the frame, checking the fit. "Maybe." "How much longer can you do this?" "I don't know. Another week? 2? And then?" "I don't know that either." Isla pulled her knees up, wrapped her arms around them. The same way she used to sit when they were young and she was thinking through something difficult. "This isn't real," she said. "You know that, right? You fixing my faucets and drinking bad coffee. It's not a life, it's just a pause. What if I want it to be real?" "You don't. You think you do because you're hiding from whatever happened in Vancouver, but eventually you'll get bored, or your manager will drag you back, or you'll see some script you can't turn down, and you'll leave." She looked at him. "And I'll still be here, fixing faucets by myself." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do, because I know you. The version of you that exists here, in this bubble, he's not the whole person. There's another version in LA, the one who goes to premieres and gives interviews and has a life that doesn't include small-town hardware stores." She stood. "I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying you can't have both." "Not really." She went inside before he could respond. "Come with me," Luca said. It was Sunday morning. Isla was cleaning the dining room, stacking chairs so she could mop underneath. Come where? Anywhere. The lighthouse up the coast. That art gallery in Newport you used to talk about. I don't care, just take a day off. Isla set down a chair. I can't just leave. I have guests checking out at 11. New arrivals at 3. Someone needs to be here. Get someone to cover for you. There has to be someone in this town who can handle check-ins for one afternoon. Luca, when's the last time you did something just because you wanted to? Not because it was practical or necessary, just because it sounded nice. She opened her mouth, closed it. He could see her trying to remember. That's what I thought, he said. One afternoon, I'll have you back by 6. She looked at the half-mopped floor, at the dishes waiting in the kitchen, at the to-do list on her phone that never seemed to get shorter. Fine, she said, but I'm driving. They took her truck, a beat-up Ford that had seen better decades. The radio only picked up static or a Christian station. Isla chose static. The lighthouse was 40 minutes north, perched on cliffs that dropped straight into the ocean. Luca had looked it up online. 4.3 stars, historic landmark, great for photos. What the website didn't mention was the gift shop full of overpriced souvenirs and the tour guide who insisted on explaining every detail of the original Fresnel lens while tourists fidgeted and checked their phones. Isla lasted 15 minutes before she whispered, "Can we go? I thought you wanted to see this." "I've seen it. 8th grade field trip. It was boring then too." They escaped to the cliff path. Wind whipped Isla's hair around her face. Below them, waves crashed against rocks, throwing spray high enough to mist their skin with salt. "I'm sorry," Luca said. "This was a stupid idea." "It's not stupid, it's just not me." Isla stopped walking, turned to face the ocean. "You thought I'd like this because it's the kind of thing people do on dates. Lighthouses and scenic views and quaint tourist attractions. Isn't it? I grew up here, Luca. I've seen every lighthouse and scenic view within 100 miles. Taking me to see more is like, I don't know, like taking someone from New York to see the Statue of Liberty for fun." "So what do you do for fun?" She thought about it. "I fix things. I work in the garden. I read terrible romance novels and judge the characters for making stupid decisions. I walk the beach at low tide looking for sand dollars." "That's it?" "That's my life." She looked at him. "It's small, predictable, probably boring to someone used to premieres and after parties and flying to Europe on a whim, but it's mine." Luca felt the gap between them widening, not because she was wrong, because she was right. "I wasn't trying to change you," he said. "I know, but you were trying to fit me into your idea of what this should look like. Romance, adventure, the kind of story that plays well in your world." She started walking back toward the parking lot. "But I'm not a story. I'm just a person who likes her routine." They drove back in silence. When she pulled up to the inn, she left the engine running. "Thank you for trying," she said. "But maybe we should stop pretending this is something it's not." Luca got out of the truck, watched her drive away, and realized she was pulling away in more ways than one. The article went live on a Thursday. Luca didn't see it until his phone started buzzing with messages from people he hadn't talked to in months. The headline was exactly what he'd feared. Luca Moreau's secret hideaway, inside his romance with small-town innkeeper. The photo was worse. Him and Isla on the pier, sitting close, holding coffee. The photographer must have been using a telephoto lens. They looked intimate, like a couple. He read the article standing in the middle of his rental studio. It was garbage, speculation dressed up as journalism. But it had enough details to be believable. The inn's name, Isla's name, references to their history. His phone rang. "David, have you seen it?" his manager asked. "Yeah, it's everywhere. Entertainment Weekly picked it up. People magazine wants a statement. Your co-star's publicist is spinning it as evidence you're emotionally unstable." "I don't care." "Well, you should. Because this makes you look flaky, unreliable, like you'd rather play house in Oregon than honor your commitments. Maybe I would. Jesus Christ, Luca, get your head out of your ass. You have 1 week to get back here and do damage control, or the studio is going to replace you. And once they do that, good luck getting another job in this town. Luca hung up. Then he grabbed his keys and drove to the inn. Isla was on the porch when he pulled up. She had her phone in her hand and an expression on her face that could cut glass. "I'm sorry," he said before she could speak. "For what? The article? The photos? Or the fact that my phone has been ringing non-stop for 3 hours with reporters asking if we're engaged?" "All of it." "Great. That fixes everything." She shoved her phone in her pocket. "I have guests checking in this afternoon who specifically asked if you were still staying here. I have a blogger from Portland who wants to do a feature on the inn because apparently I'm famous now. And I have," her voice cracked, "I have people I've known my entire life looking at me like I'm a story instead of a person. I'll fix this." "How? You going to call every reporter and ask them nicely to leave me alone?" She laughed, bitter. "This is what you do, Luca. You drop into people's lives like a bomb, and then you're surprised when everything explodes. That's not fair. Isn't it? You came here knowing this could happen, knowing that being around you makes me a target, and you did it anyway because what? Because you were lonely? Because you needed to work through your feelings? Because I wanted to see you. Well, congratulations, you saw me, and now the whole world gets to see me too." A car pulled into the lot. Isla's expression shifted, professional mask sliding into place. "I have guests to check in," she said. "Leave." "Isla, leave, please, just go." He went. Luca spent 2 days in his rental, ignoring his phone and trying to figure out what the hell he was doing with his life. On the third day, he saw Isla in town. She was coming out of the bank, an envelope in her hand, and she looked lighter. Not happy exactly, but relieved. He followed her to the coffee shop. She saw him, rolled her eyes, but didn't walk away. "I'm not talking about the article," she said. "Okay." "Or about you." "Also okay." She ordered her coffee. He paid for it before she could argue. They sat at a table by the window, watching tourists wander past with ice cream cones despite the cold. "The buyer increased their offer," Isla said after a while. "By how much?" 40,000. They want to close early, before the winter season." She stirred sugar into her coffee even though she drank it black, a nervous habit. "They're willing to let me stay on for 3 months after the sale, help transition, train the new staff. And then? And then I figure out what comes next." She finally looked at him. "I took it, the offer. I signed this morning." Something cold settled in Luca's chest. "When?" "Closing is in 3 weeks." 3 weeks, not 2 months, not enough time to... To what? He didn't even know. "That's fast," he managed. "It's necessary." Isla set down her spoon. "I need the money. The inn needs more repairs than I can afford, and the buyers are willing to do it right. Actually invest in the place instead of just slapping paint on problems." "You love that place." "I loved my mother. The inn is just a building." But her voice wavered when she said it. Luca reached across the table, stopped just short of touching her hand. "You don't have to sell." "Yes, I do." "What if you had the money for the repairs?" Isla pulled her hand back. "I don't. That's the point. But what if you did?" She stared at him, understanding slowly dawning. "No. Just listen. No, absolutely not. I am not taking money from you. It wouldn't be taking, it would be an investment. I'd be a silent partner. You'd still own the inn, still run it how you want. And what would you get out of it? I don't know. Equity, a place to stay when I'm in town, the satisfaction of knowing I helped." Isla stood abruptly. "I don't need saving, especially not by you." "It's not about saving." "Yes, it is. You want to swoop in and fix everything because it makes you feel better about leaving in the first place. But I don't want your guilt money, Luca. I don't want anything from you except for you to stop making this harder than it already is. She left her coffee on the table and walked out. 3 days after the coffee shop confrontation, Luca did something stupid. He called a contractor, got an estimate for the inn repairs. Then he called his accountant and had him draw up partnership papers. Legal, official, a real offer, not just words in a kitchen at midnight. He showed up at the inn with the folder and found Isla in the office, doing paperwork. "I have something for you," he said. She looked up, wary. "What?" He set the folder on her desk. "Open it." Isla opened the folder. Her eyes scanned the first page, then the second. Her expression went from confused to shocked to angry in the space of 30 seconds. "What is this?" "A partnership agreement, 50-50 ownership. I cover the repairs. You keep running the place. We split profits if there ever are any. No strings, just business." "Just business," she repeated flatly. "Yeah. You drew up legal documents for my inn without asking me. I'm asking now." Isla closed the folder and pushed it back across the desk. "No. You didn't even read it all." "I don't need to read it. The answer is no." "Isla, do you know what this looks like?" Her voice was rising. "Famous actor swoops in to save failing business. Poor, small-town girl needs rescuing." That's the story people will tell. Not that I built this place from nothing. Not that I kept it running for 10 years after my mother died. Just that I couldn't make it work and had to let some man fix it for me. That's not what this is. Yes, it is. Maybe you don't mean it that way. Maybe in your head this is generous and kind and romantic. But in reality, it's just another way of taking control from me. Luca felt his frustration building. "I'm trying to help." "I didn't ask for your help. I asked you to leave me alone, to let me make my own choices. And you can't even do that because you're so convinced you know what's best for me. I know you love this place. I know you don't want to sell. I'm giving you a way to keep it. On your terms, with your money, under your conditions." She stood. "I have spent my entire life fighting for autonomy, for the right to make my own decisions, even if they're mistakes. And you show up with your checkbook and your lawyers and act like that's love. It is love. I'm trying to give you what you want. What I want is for you to respect my choices. And I chose to sell. Not because I have to, because I want to, because I'm ready to move on." Her hands were shaking. "But you can't accept that. You need me to be the girl who stayed, the girl who waited, the girl whose entire world revolves around this inn and this town and you. That's not fair. None of this is fair, but it's the truth." She picked up the folder and held it out to him. "Take your offer and go." He didn't take it. "I'm trying to fix what I broke." "You can't. Some things stay broken." She set the folder on the desk between them. "Please leave." This time he listened. Luca's phone rang at midnight. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. "Hello? It's me." Isla's voice was quiet, rough, like she'd been crying. "What's wrong? Can you come over? To the inn? I know it's late, but I need to show you something." He was in his car before she hung up. The inn was dark except for one window on the second floor. Isla met him at the door in sweatpants and an old cardigan, her hair loose around her shoulders. "Come on," she said. She led him upstairs to a room he hadn't been in before. Her mother's old room, he realized. The furniture was dated, but carefully maintained. Photos covered the dresser. Isla as a child, Isla's mother, the inn in better days. Isla sat on the bed, pulled a shoebox from under it. "I found these today, while I was packing." She opened the box. Inside were letters, dozens of them, rubber banded together. Luca sat beside her. "What are they?" "Letters my mom wrote me. After the diagnosis, She had 6 months, but she wanted to leave me things to find later. Advice, stories, I don't know. Isla pulled out one envelope, already opened. I read this one tonight. She handed it to him. The handwriting was shaky but legible. My darling girl, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And if I know you, you're running yourself ragged trying to keep the end perfect because you think that's what I would have wanted. But honey, the inn was never the point. It was just a place. What mattered was the life we built in it, the people we welcomed, the mornings we spent together in the kitchen. Don't sacrifice yourself for walls and windows. Don't stay here because you think you owe me something. I want you to live, really live, not just survive. The inn will be there or it won't. Either way, you'll be okay. Love, Mom. Luca read it twice. Then he handed it back. She would hate this, Isla said. Me selling, moving on. She'd say I gave up too easy. Or she'd say you're being smart, practical. Maybe, Isla wiped her eyes. I don't know why I called you. I didn't want to be alone with this. Luca took a risk. He put his arm around her shoulders. She stiffened. Then slowly, she leaned into him. They sat like that for a long time, not talking, just breathing together in the dark. The next morning, Luca showed up with his toolbox and a stepladder. What are you doing? Isla asked. The gutter on the east side is loose. I'm going to fix it before someone gets hurt. Luca, I know you're selling. I know you don't want my help. But I'm fixing the gutter anyway because it's dangerous and I can't leave knowing it might fall on someone's head. Isla watched him set up the ladder. You're impossible. Yeah. She disappeared inside. He climbed the ladder and started working on the gutter. The brackets were rusted through. He'd need to replace them entirely. Halfway through the job, Isla came out with 2 cups of coffee. The good coffee from the place in town. Peace offering, she said. I didn't know we were fighting. We're always fighting. We're just polite about it now. She sat on the porch steps. I'm sorry for calling you last night, for dumping all that on you. Don't be. I'm glad you called. Really? Really? He came down the ladder, sat beside her. I like being someone you call when things are hard. Isla looked at her coffee. This isn't going to work, you know. You and me, whatever this is. I know. So why are you still here? Because I'm not ready to say goodbye yet. He turned to face her. I know I will eventually. I know you're right about LA and my life there. But right now, in this moment, I just want to sit on this porch and drink coffee with you. Isla was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, my mom used to say that sometimes the best thing you can do is be present for the time you have. Stop worrying about what comes next. Smart woman. Yeah, she was. They finished their coffee in comfortable silence. Then Luca went back to fixing the gutter, while Isla went back to running her inn. And for a few hours, it was enough. The storm hit on a Saturday. Forecasters had been tracking it for days. A late-season tempest that would bring heavy rain and winds, strong enough to knock out power. Isla prepared the way she always did. Candles in every room. Flashlights with fresh batteries. The generator in the shed, fueled and ready. Luca showed up at 2 in the afternoon as the first bands of rain started. I'm staying, he said. Don't argue. I was going to ask anyway. She handed him a box of candles. Put these in the common areas, and check that all the windows are latched upstairs. They worked together, preparing the inn. Guests huddled in the lobby, some nervous, some excited by the drama. Isla spoke to each of them calmly, reassuring them the building had weathered worse. The power went out at 7. Wind howled around the eaves. Rain lashed the windows in horizontal sheets. Isla lit candles. The lobby glowed with warm, flickering light. Everyone stay in the common areas tonight, she announced. If you need anything, I'll be here. The guests settled in. Someone found a deck of cards. Another guest had brought wine. The storm turned into an impromptu party, people laughing and telling stories in the candlelight. Luca found Isla in the kitchen, making sandwiches for anyone who was hungry. "You're good at this," he said. "At what?" "Making people feel safe." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Occupational hazard. A crack of thunder shook the building. The lights flickered. For a moment, Luca thought the generator was going to fail. "I should check the shed," Isla said. "I'll go. It's my job, and I'm volunteering. Where's the rain jacket?" She pointed to the closet by the back door. He pulled on the jacket, grabbed a flashlight, and headed out into the storm. The wind nearly knocked him over the moment he stepped outside. Rain soaked through his jeans in seconds. He made his way to the shed, fighting against the gusts. The generator was running, but barely. The fuel gauge read empty. How was that possible? Isla said she'd filled it this morning. He checked the connection. The fuel line had come loose. Gas was leaking onto the shed floor. Luca swore. He turned off the generator, reconnected the line, found a spare fuel can. The shed was a mess. Water dripping through holes in the roof. The smell of gasoline mixing with damp wood. He was refueling the generator when the door slammed open. Isla stood there, soaked and furious. "What are you doing?" "Fixing the fuel line. It came loose. I told you I would handle it, and I'm handling it now. Go back inside." "This is my inn, Luca. My responsibility." "I know that, but you don't have to do everything alone." The words hung between them, loaded with more than just the generator. Isla stepped into the shed. "My whole life, people have been telling me what I can and can't handle. My mom did it, the bank did it, and now you're doing it too. That's not what I'm doing." "Then what are you doing? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're trying to prove something. That you're helpful, that you care, that you're not the guy who left me behind." "Maybe I am trying to prove that." "Well, stop. I don't need your redemption arc. I need—" Her voice broke. "I need you to just be honest. Tell me why you're really here." "I told you." "No, you've told me excuses. You're hiding. You're working through things. You need a break. But what are you really running from?" The generator kicked back to life. The shed lights flickered on, harsh and bright. Luca looked at her, really looked at her. Her hair plastered to her skull, mascara running down her cheeks, shaking from cold or anger or both. "I'm running from a life that doesn't feel like mine anymore," he said quietly. "From people who only want me for what I can give them. From a career that's eating me alive, and a future that looks exactly like my past except emptier." He stepped closer. "And yeah, maybe I came here to hide, but I stayed because of you. Because being around you is the first time in years I've felt like a real person instead of a product." Isla stared at him. The rain drummed on the roof. Water dripped from the rafters. "That's not fair," she whispered. "I know. You can't put that on me, the weight of being your reason. I'm not asking you to fix me. I'm just telling you the truth." She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were bright with tears. "I can't be your escape, Luca. I can't be the thing you run to when LA gets hard, because eventually you'll run back. And I'll be here, again, alone, again. What if I don't run back?" "You will. You always do." "How do you know?" "Because I'm not enough." The words came out raw. "I wasn't enough 14 years ago. This town wasn't enough. And I'm still the same person in the same place. Nothing's changed except I'm older and smarter, and I know better than to believe in maybes." Luca reached for her. She stepped back. "I need to get back to the guests," she said. "Make sure everyone's okay." She left him in the shed with the generator and the rain and the terrible truth between them. The morning after the storm, the inn was chaos. A tree had fallen in the back garden, taking out a section of fence. The power was back, but flickering. 2 guests were checking out early, spooked by the weather. Isla moved through it all with mechanical efficiency. Check the damage, make the calls, reassure the remaining guests. She didn't have time to think about Luca or the generator shed or anything he'd said. She was in the garden, examining the fallen tree, when he appeared with a chainsaw. "Where did you get that?" she asked. "Borrowed it from Jim at the hardware store. I'm going to cut this up before it becomes a bigger problem." "You don't know how to use a chainsaw." "Jim gave me a tutorial. I'll be careful." Before she could argue, he was pulling the start cord. The chainsaw roared to life. He started cutting branches, working methodically from small to large. He was careful, she noticed, deliberate, taking his time. Isla watched for a minute, then went inside to deal with the guests. When she came back out an hour later, he'd cut the tree into manageable pieces and stacked them against the shed. "You'll need to call someone to haul this away," he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "But at least it's not blocking the path anymore." "Thank you." He nodded, started gathering the tools. That's when Isla noticed the blood on his hand. "You're hurt." "It's nothing, just a scrape." "Let me see." He held out his hand, a deep cut across his palm, still bleeding. Must have happened when he was moving the wood. "Inside," she said. "Now." She led him to the kitchen, made him sit at the table while she got the first aid kit. She cleaned the cut with antiseptic. He winced, but didn't pull away. "You should be more careful," she said. "I was careful. Trees are just unpredictable." "That's a metaphor if I've ever heard one." He almost smiled. "Yeah." She wrapped his hand in gauze, taped it secure. They sat there for a moment, her hand still holding his. "I meant what I said," Luca said quietly. "In the shed. About running from my life." "I know. But I meant the other part too. About you being the reason I stayed." Isla pulled her hands back. "That's too much pressure, Luca. Being someone's reason, I can't carry that." "I'm not asking you to carry it, just acknowledge it." "Okay, I acknowledge it. You stayed because of me. And now you're leaving because of me too. Because I can't give you what you want." "What do I want?" "Absolution, a do-over, a chance to prove you're different now." She stood, started putting the first aid kit away. "But I can't give you those things. I can only give you the truth, which is that we're different people now. We want different things, and pretending otherwise just hurts us both." Luca stood too. "What if I don't go back to LA?" "You will. But what if I don't? Then you'll resent me eventually, for being the reason you gave up your career, for trapping you here." She turned to face him. "I've thought about this, Luca. Every possible scenario, and they all end the same way, with you leaving or with you staying and wishing you hadn't. You don't know that. I know enough." He wanted to argue. She could see it in his face, but instead he just nodded and walked out. The storm passed overnight. By morning the sun was out and the ocean was calm, like the violence had never happened. Luca found Isla on the beach, standing at the waterline. She changed into dry clothes. Her hair was in that familiar braid. He walked up beside her. Neither of them spoke for a while. "I got a call this morning," Isla said finally. "The buyers. They want to move the closing up, 10 days instead of 3 weeks." "Why?" "Because they can. Because they're paying cash and they want to start renovations before winter really hits." She bent down, picked up a piece of driftwood, turned it over in her hands. "I said yes." "Isla, I have to, Luca. I have to let this place go. It's the right thing, the smart thing." She threw the driftwood into the waves. "My mom was wrong. The inn isn't just a place. It's everything I've worked for, everything I am, and I'm choosing to walk away from it." "You're not walking away. You're making a practical decision." "It doesn't feel practical. It feels like giving up." She turned to him. "Do you know what the worst part is? I keep thinking about what you said, about investing, about partnership, and I keep wondering, what if? What if I said yes? What if we tried to make it work?" Luca's heart jumped. "So say yes." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because you'll leave. Maybe not today, maybe not next week, but eventually you'll get a call from your manager, or see a script you want, or just wake up and realize you miss your real life. And when you do, I'll be left here, in a partnership with a ghost. That won't happen. You can't promise that. I can try. Isla shook her head. I've spent 14 years learning how to stand on my own, how to not need anyone. I can't go backwards, not even for you. She started walking back toward the inn. Luca watched her go, the distance between them growing with every step. The closing was scheduled for Friday at 2. Isla spent the week packing her mother's things, sorting through decades of accumulated life, deciding what to keep and what to let go. Luca came by every day, fixed things she didn't ask him to fix, helped guests with their bags, sat on the porch drinking coffee like he belonged there. On Wednesday, he brought lunch, sandwiches from the deli in town. They ate on the beach, watching seagulls fight over a discarded hamburger bun. Have you thought about what comes next? He asked. After the sale? Not really. I figured I'd take some time. Travel, maybe. Where would you go? I don't know. Somewhere I've never been. Somewhere that doesn't remind me of this place. She picked up a handful of sand, let it run through her fingers. What about you? Back to the grind? Maybe. Or maybe I take some time too. Figure out what I actually want instead of just doing what everyone expects. That sounds nice. Come with me, he said suddenly. Not permanently, just a month, 6 weeks. We could go to Portugal or Iceland, somewhere neither of us has been. Isla looked at him. And then what? I don't know, maybe we figure it out as we go. That's not a plan, that's a fantasy. So, what's wrong with a little fantasy? Everything, when it ends and reality comes crashing back. She stood, brushed sand from her jeans. I can't be your escape, Luca. Your adventure. I need to be my own person. Figure out my own life. We could do that together. No, we can't. Because being together means compromise. And I've spent too long compromising myself for other people's dreams. She started walking back toward the inn. I need to do this alone. He didn't follow her this time, just sat there on the beach watching her go. On Friday morning, 12 hours before closing, Isla woke up to find Luca's rental car gone from its usual spot near the marina. She told herself it was better this way. Cleaner. No long goodbye. No promises neither of them could keep. But it still hurt. Luca checked out of his rental that afternoon. He packed his duffel bag, the same one he'd arrived with, and sat on the bed trying to figure out what came next. His phone buzzed. A text from David. Studio wants you back Monday. They're willing to negotiate, but only if you're there in person. Monday, 3 days away. He could go back, step back into his life, pretend the last few weeks never happened. Or, he drove to the inn. Isla was in the garden, same as the day he'd arrived, pulling weeds, working. I'm leaving, he said. She didn't look up. When? Tonight, I have a flight out of Portland in the morning. Okay. Isla, don't. She finally looked at him. Don't make this into something it's not. You came here to hide. You're leaving because you're done hiding. That's all this was. That's not true. Isn't it? She pulled off her gardening gloves, stood. You got what you needed. Time to think. Space to breathe. And I'm glad I could give you that, really. But let's not pretend this was ever going to end differently. I love you. The words fell between them. Isla's expression didn't change. No, you don't, she said calmly. You love the idea of me, the me that exists in your memory, but you don't know who I am now, and I don't know who you've become. We're strangers who used to know each other. That's not fair. Maybe not, but it's true. She picked up her bucket of weeds. Have a safe flight, Luca. She walked away. This time, he didn't follow. He got in his car, drove to Portland, caught his flight, and just like 14 years ago, he left Isla behind. Isla signed the papers at 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. The lawyer's office smelled like old coffee and carpet cleaner. The buyers were a couple from Seattle, mid-40s, with kind eyes and renovation plans that would turn the inn into something beautiful. "You're doing the right thing," the woman said, shaking Isla's hand. "We'll take good care of it." Isla nodded, didn't trust herself to speak. She drove back to the inn in the afternoon light. Her inn. For 3 more months at least. Then it would belong to someone else. The parking lot was empty. No guests. She'd stopped taking reservations 2 weeks ago. Just her now, in the building, in the ocean that never stopped moving. She walked through the lobby, the desk where she'd checked in thousands of guests, the fireplace that had warmed countless cold mornings, the stairs that creaked on the 5th step, no matter how many times she tried to fix it. Upstairs, she went to room 4, the room where Luca had stayed. She'd cleaned it after he left, changed the sheets, scrubbed the bathroom, removed every trace of him, except she could still smell his cologne. Or maybe she was imagining it. She sat on the bed and let herself cry. Not for Luca, for her mother, for the life she was leaving behind, for the version of herself who'd believed she could keep this place running forever. Her phone buzzed. A text from the hardware store owner, Jim. "Heard about the sale. If you need help moving, let me know." Another text. From the woman who ran the bookstore. "Drinks tonight? My treat." And another. "The couple who'd stayed here every anniversary for the past 8 years. Thank you for everything. You made our stays magical." Isla read them all, then she put her phone away and walked downstairs to start packing. 3 days after the closing, someone knocked on the door. Isla was in the kitchen, wrapping dishes in newspaper. She almost didn't answer. The no vacancy sign had been up for weeks, but the knocking persisted, polite but insistent. She opened the door. A woman stood on the porch, late 60s, silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, wearing a tailored coat that looked expensive but comfortable. "I'm sorry," Isla said. "We're closed. The sale." "I know about the sale." The woman's voice was warm, familiar in a way Isla couldn't place. "I'm not here for a room. I'm here to talk to you. May I come in?" Something in the woman's tone made Isla step aside. They sat in the lobby. Isla offered coffee. The woman accepted. They drank in silence for a moment, and Isla studied her guest. There was something about her eyes, the way she looked around the inn like she was seeing memories instead of furniture. "You probably don't remember me," the woman said finally. "I stayed here once, 23 years ago. Your mother ran the place then." Isla's chest tightened. "I'm sorry, I don't." "There's no reason you would. You were maybe 9 or 10. But I remember you. You were helping your mother make beds, very serious about getting the corners right." A memory surfaced, vague. A guest with kind eyes who told her she was doing a good job. "I was going through a divorce," the woman continued. "My whole life was falling apart. I drove up the coast with no plan, just needed to get away. Your mother gave me the room at the end of the hall, the one with the window seat. Room 6. Yes, I stayed for 2 weeks. Your mother never asked why I was there or when I was leaving. She just let me exist. Brought me coffee in the mornings, recommended books from the library, sat with me on the porch when the sunset was particularly beautiful." The woman's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "She saved my life, not dramatically, just by being present, by making me feel like I mattered." Isla didn't know what to say. "I heard about the sale from a friend in town," the woman said. "I wanted to come say thank you. To your mother, even though she's gone, and to you for continuing what she started. I didn't continue it well enough. I'm selling. You kept it going for 10 years after she died. That's not nothing." The woman set down her coffee cup. "I also wanted to give you something." She reached into her purse and pulled out a checkbook, wrote something, tore off the check, and handed it to Isla. Isla looked at it. $50,000. "I can't accept this." "Yes, you can. I'm not asking you to keep the inn. I'm not trying to save you. I'm simply paying forward what your mother gave me. Use it however you want. Travel. Start over. Buy a new business. Burn it for warmth. I don't care. The woman stood. But know that what you and your mother built here mattered. It still matters, even if the building changes hands. She walked to the door, stopped, turned back. That actor who was staying here, the one in the articles, did he leave? Isla nodded. Do you love him? The question caught her off guard. I don't know. That's not a no. The woman smiled sadly. I spent 10 years after my divorce telling myself I was better off alone. That needing someone was weakness. And maybe I was right. But I also missed out on a lot of life by being so determined to be independent. She pulled on her gloves. Just something to think about. She left before Isla could respond. Isla sat in the empty lobby, holding a check for $50,000 and trying to remember how to breathe. Isla called him at midnight. She'd been staring at her phone for 3 hours, deleting and rewriting the text message before she finally just pressed dial. He answered on the second ring. Isla? His voice. God, his voice. It had only been a week, but she'd already started forgetting the exact tone of it. Hi, she managed. Are you okay? It's late. I'm fine, I wanted to. How's LA? Silence, then. It's LA. Loud. Busy. The same as always. Did you sort things out with the studio? Yeah, I'm doing the movie. They moved the start date to give me time to get my head straight. Their words. That's good. Is it? Isla didn't know how to answer that. How was the closing? Luca asked. Fine. Fast. The new owners seem nice. Good. That's good. Another silence. This one longer, heavier. Why did you leave? Isla asked quietly. Before the closing. You didn't say goodbye. I thought it would be easier, for both of us. It wasn't easier, I mean. She heard him exhale. I'm sorry, I should have. I wanted to stay. I wanted to be there for you, but I didn't think you wanted me there. I didn't. I did. I don't know what I wanted. Isla leaned back against her headboard. A woman came to see me today. Someone my mother helped years ago. She gave me $50,000. Just handed me a check. Isla, and she asked if I loved you, and I told her I didn't know. But that's not true. The words came out in a rush. I know. I've known since the first day you showed up in the rain looking lost, and I didn't turn you away even though I should have. Luca was quiet for so long she thought the connection had dropped. You still there? She asked. Yeah, I'm here. I'm just processing. Don't process. Don't think. Just tell me the truth. Why did you really come back? To Shore's End. To me. Because I never stopped loving you. Because every relationship I've had for 14 years has been a pale imitation of what we had. Because I'm tired of pretending I'm happy when I'm just going through the motions. His voice cracked. Because you're the only real thing in my life, and I was an idiot to ever think I could replace that. Isla closed her eyes. Tears ran down her cheeks. That's not fair, she whispered. I know. You can't say things like that and expect me to know what to do with them. I'm not expecting anything. You asked for the truth. That's the truth. Isla wiped her face. I sold the inn. I have money now. Not a lot, but enough to start over. Anywhere I want. Where do you want to go? That's the problem. I don't know. I've spent my whole life in one place. The idea of leaving is terrifying, but the idea of staying is worse. Come to LA. What? Come to LA, not for me, for you. It's big enough to get lost in. Anonymous enough that you can figure out who you are without everyone knowing your history. Stay with me or don't. I don't care. Just come. That's insane. Probably, but what's the alternative? Staying in Shore's End and watching someone else run your mother's inn? Getting a job you hate because it's practical? That doesn't sound like living. That sounds like surviving. Isla laughed. It came out wet and broken. You're really bad at respecting my independence. I know, it's a character flaw. She could hear the smile in his voice. Think about it, that's all I'm asking. Just think about it. Okay, I'll think about it. Okay? Neither of them hung up. Isla started packing the next morning. Not just the inn, her whole life. 32 years in Shore's End fit into 14 boxes and 3 suitcases. She kept her mother's letters, the photos, a quilt her grandmother made, a coffee mug with a chip in the handle that her mother used every morning. Everything else went to donation or the dumpster. Jim from the hardware store came by with his truck, helped her load the boxes. You sure about this? He asked. Leaving? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Where you headed? LA, for a while, maybe longer. Jim raised an eyebrow. The actor? Maybe, partially. Mostly I just need to be somewhere that isn't here. Fair enough. He closed the truck bed. Your mom would be proud, you know, that you're choosing yourself. You think? I know. She talked about you all the time, worried you'd get stuck here, that you'd sacrifice your life for the inn. He squeezed her shoulder. She wanted you to fly, kiddo. This is flying. Isla hugged him, hard. Thank you for everything. You need anything, you call. Doesn't matter where you are, you're still Shore's End family. He drove away with her boxes. Isla stood in the empty parking lot and felt the weight of the last 10 years lift. She left on a Tuesday, early morning, before the sun was fully up. The inn's new owners weren't moving in for another month, but Isla couldn't stay any longer. The truck was loaded. The keys were under the blue pot on the porch, where they'd always been. A note for the new owners explaining the quirks. The loose board on the stairs. The window in room 3. The coffee pot that had to be turned on twice before it worked. She sat in the driver's seat for a long moment, looking at the building that had been her whole world. Then she started the engine and drove away. The highway stretched south, hours of coastline, trees giving way to scrubland, small towns bleeding into suburbs, bleeding into sprawl. She stopped for gas in a place she'd never been, bought terrible coffee and a sandwich that tasted like cardboard, sat in the parking lot and called Luca. I'm coming, she said when he answered. What? To LA. I'm driving. I should be there by tonight. Silence. Then, are you serious? Completely terrified and probably making a huge mistake. But yes, serious. Where are you now? Some gas station north of Sacramento. Text me when you get close. I'll send you my address. Luca, yeah? I'm not coming to get back together. I'm coming because I need to figure out my life, and you're the only person who's ever made me feel like it's okay to not have all the answers. I'll take it. She could hear the smile in his voice. It made her smile too. Los Angeles at night was overwhelming. Lights everywhere, traffic that never stopped. The sheer density of humanity pressing in from all sides. Isla's truck felt small and out of place. She followed the GPS to an address in Silver Lake, a neighborhood of hills and narrow streets, and houses that looked like they cost more than the inn had sold for. Luca's house was mid-century modern, all glass and clean lines, and a view of the city that probably looked incredible in daylight. He was waiting on the front steps when she pulled up. Jeans and a t-shirt, no shoes. His hair longer than she remembered. She got out of the truck. They stood there for a moment, 10 feet apart, just looking at each other. You drove 12 hours, he said. 13, traffic. You must be exhausted. I don't know what I am. Luca walked toward her, slowly, giving her time to move away if she wanted to. She didn't. He stopped a foot away, close enough that she could see the shadows under his eyes, the stubble on his jaw, the way he was looking at her like he couldn't quite believe she was real. I'm glad you're here, he said. I'm glad I came, I think. Ask me again in the morning. He smiled. Come inside. I'll show you the guest room. Guest room? You said you weren't coming to get back together. I'm respecting that. Isla felt something in her chest crack open. Relief or disappointment or both. Thank you, she said. He grabbed two of her suitcases. She followed him into the house. Isla woke up in a bed that wasn't hers, in a city she didn't know, with no plan for what came next. It should have been terrifying. Instead, it felt like possibility. She found Luca in the kitchen, making coffee. The good kind. From beans he ground fresh. Morning, he said. How'd you sleep? Like the dead. What time is it? Almost 10. I let you sleep in. 10? Isla couldn't remember the last time she'd slept past 7. I never sleep that late. Maybe you needed it. He handed her a mug. I was thinking we could drive around today, show you the city. Or not, if you'd rather just decompress. Isla sipped her coffee. It was perfect. Show me. They spent the day in his car, a Tesla that drove itself on the highway and made her nervous until she got used to it. He showed her the beaches, the neighborhoods, the coffee shops and bookstores and parks where people brought their dogs. It's bigger than I imagined, she said. You get used to it, or you don't and you find a quiet corner and hide. Is that what you do? Sometimes, when it gets too loud. They had lunch at a taco truck in Echo Park, sat by the lake watching people paddle swan boats. Can I ask you something? Isla said. Sure. Why did you really quit the Vancouver thing? What happened? Luca was quiet for a long time. Then he said, the director wanted me to do a scene a certain way. I disagreed. He pushed. I pushed back. It escalated. He picked at his taco. He said something about how actors are replaceable, that I should be grateful anyone still wants to work with me. And I just snapped, walked off set, drove straight to the airport and bought a ticket to Oregon. You didn't hit him? No, the media made that up. I just left. He looked at her. I've been thinking about it for months. Leaving, the business, everything. He just gave me the excuse I needed. Do you regret it? Not the leaving, maybe the how. I burned a lot of bridges. You can rebuild bridges. Maybe, if I want to. Do you? I don't know yet. He crumpled up his taco wrapper. I'm trying to figure out what I actually want instead of what I think I'm supposed to want. It's harder than I thought. Isla understood that, more than she wanted to admit. On her third week in LA, Luca had to fly to New York for meetings. 3 days, maybe 4. I can cancel, he said, packing his bag. Don't be ridiculous, I'm not a child. I can survive alone for a few days. I know, but go, do your work, I'll be fine. He left early on a Wednesday. Isla woke up in his guest room, in his house, in a city where she knew exactly one person who was now 3,000 miles away. She made coffee, sat on his deck overlooking the city. The view was beautiful. The silence was deafening. By noon, she was restless. She drove to the beach, Santa Monica, because it was the only beach name she knew. Found parking after 20 minutes of circling. Paid $15 for 2 hours. The sand was crowded, tourists and locals, and people selling sunglasses from blankets. She walked to the water, let the waves wash over her feet. The Pacific was the same ocean that touched Shore's End, but it felt different here, warmer, busier, less hers. A woman jogged past, earbuds in, barely glancing at Isla. A family set up camp nearby, the kids screaming with delight as they ran toward the water. An elderly couple walked hand in hand, comfortable in their silence. Everyone belonged here, except her. Isla sat on the sand and pulled out her phone. She had Jim's number, Rachel Chen's number, a few contacts from the inn's regular guests, but no one she could call and say, I'm lonely and scared, and I don't know what I'm doing. Except Luca, and he was the reason she was here, which made calling him feel like admitting defeat. She stayed on the beach until sunset. Watched the sky turn orange and pink and purple, Watch people pack up their towels and coolers. Watch the lifeguards close their stations. When she got back to Luca's house, it was dark and empty. She heated up leftovers, ate standing at the kitchen counter, washed her single plate and fork and put them away. Then she sat on the couch and cried. Not dramatic tears, just quiet ones. The kind that come when you realize you've made a choice and now you have to live with it. Her phone rang. Luca. FaceTime. She almost didn't answer, but she did. Hey, he said. His face filled the screen. He was in a hotel room, expensive looking. How was your day? Fine, went to the beach. Which one? Santa Monica. Tourist trap. Next time try El Matador. It's farther but less crowded. He studied her through the screen. You've been crying. No, I haven't. Isla, she sighed, maybe a little. What happened? Nothing happened. That's the problem. I spent the whole day alone and realized I don't know how to be here. How to exist in this city. I don't have friends. I don't have a routine. I'm just floating. That's normal. You've been there 3 weeks. Give it time. What if time doesn't help? What if I hate it here? Luca was quiet for a moment. Then he said, then you leave. Go somewhere else. Portland, Seattle. Back to Shore's End if that's what you need. You're not trapped. I feel trapped. By what? By you. By the choice I made to come here. By the idea that if I leave now, I'm giving up. Again. You're not giving up. You're recalibrating. His voice was gentle. Isla, I don't want you here if it makes you miserable. I want you to be happy, even if that means being happy somewhere I'm not. The words cracked something open in her chest. I don't know if I can do this. Do what? Build a new life, start over, be brave. You're the bravest person I know. You sold your mother's inn, left the only town you've ever lived in, drove 12 hours to a city you'd never seen. That's not cowardice, that's courage. It doesn't feel like courage, it feels like running away. Maybe it's both, maybe that's okay. He shifted on the bed. I come back tomorrow night, we can talk about this more then. But for now, just be gentle with yourself. You don't have to have it all figured out. After they hung up, Isla sat in the dark living room for a long time. Then she opened her laptop and started researching Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, other cities, other possibilities. Just looking, just considering options. Because Luca was right, she wasn't trapped. She could leave. But the question was, did she want to? 2 weeks later, Isla got a phone call from an unknown number. Is this Isla Bennett? A woman's voice. Professional, friendly. Yes? My name is Rachel Chen. I run a hospitality consulting firm here in LA. Your name came up in a conversation with a mutual friend. I don't think I know anyone in LA. Besides, she glanced at Luca, who was reading on the couch. One person. The person who mentioned you is Jim Miller, from Shore's End Hardware? Isla sat up straighter. Jim? He called me last week, said you recently sold a successful inn and might be looking for new opportunities. I'm working with a boutique hotel group that's expanding into Oregon and Washington. They need someone with local knowledge and operational experience. I thought you might be interested. What kind of position? Regional manager. You'd oversee 3 properties, help develop the brand, train staff. It's a significant role, good salary, benefits, some travel but not excessive. Isla's heart was racing. I don't have a degree, no formal training, just experience. That's exactly what they want. Someone who's run a property from the ground up, who understands the guest experience on a practical level. Rachel paused. Would you be willing to meet? Just coffee, no commitment. Yes, I'd be willing. Great, how's Thursday at 2? Isla hung up and sat there staring at her phone. What was that? Luca asked. A job offer, maybe. A meeting about a job offer. That's great, right? I think so, I don't know. It's in Oregon and Washington. I'd have to move back. So? So I just got here. And you? We're, I don't know what we're doing, but we're doing something. Lucas set down his book, came to sit beside her. Isla, if this is what you want, take it. Don't make your decisions based on me, or us, or whatever this is. But, no, listen to me. I came back to Shore's End because I was running away from my life. You're here because you're running towards something new. Those are different things. He took her hand. I want you to stay. Of course I do. But not if it means you're giving up opportunities. Not if it means you're making the same mistake I made 14 years ago. Isla looked at their hands, intertwined, familiar and strange at the same time. What if I want both? She asked. The job and you? Then we figure it out. Long distance, visits, whatever works. But you take the job if you want the job. She kissed him, soft and brief. Thank you. For what? For being different this time. The meeting went well, better than well. Rachel's clients loved her experience, loved her approach to hospitality, offered her the job on the spot. Regional manager, 3 properties, starting in 6 months to give her time to relocate and prepare. Isla said yes. She called Luca from the parking lot. I took it. That's amazing. Congratulations. I'm terrified. Good. That means it matters. She drove back to his house, let herself in with the key he'd given her last week, found him in the office, reading a script. Is that for the movie? She asked. No, just something I'm considering. Smaller production, independent film, the opposite of everything I usually do. Are you going to do it? Maybe, if I can make it work with everything else. Isla sat down on the edge of his desk. I need to be in Portland in 6 months, for the job. That means I need to find an apartment, start building a life there. Okay. Portland is 3 hours from Shore's End, 2.5 if there's no traffic. Okay. And it's about 2.5 hours from here, by plane. Luca set down the script. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't want to do long distance. I'm saying I want to figure out what this is, what we are, and I can't do that from different cities. So what do you want? I want you to come with me, to Portland. Not permanently, just visit. Help me apartment hunt. Meet my new bosses. Be part of this new thing I'm building. And after that? After that, we figure it out. Maybe you stay in LA and I stay in Portland and we see each other when we can. Maybe we find something in between. Maybe this doesn't work and we're just 2 people who loved each other once and tried again, and it wasn't enough. She took a breath. But I want to try. Actually try. Not just exist in the same space and pretend that's a relationship. Luca stood, pulled her toward him, kissed her properly this time, deep and slow and full of promise. I'll come to Portland, he said against her lips, and I'll help you find an apartment, and I'll be there when you start your job, and we'll figure out the rest as we go. No guarantees? No guarantees, just effort, honesty, showing up. I can work with that. They flew to Portland on a rainy Tuesday in October. Isla had booked 3 days of apartment viewings, 12 places on her list, a mix of studios and 1-bedrooms in neighborhoods Rachel had recommended. The first apartment was too dark, the second, too expensive. The third smelled like cats, even though the landlord swore it was pet-free. By apartment 7, Isla was exhausted and discouraged. Maybe I should just find a short-term rental, she said, sitting in Luca's rental car outside building number 8. Something temporary until I know the city better. Or maybe the next one will be perfect. You're annoyingly optimistic. One of my many charms. Apartment 8 was in a converted warehouse in the Pearl District. Exposed brick, big windows, a kitchen with actual counter space, hardwood floors that creaked in a good way. This is it, Isla said, standing in the empty living room. You sure? We have 4 more to see. I'm sure. The landlord was a woman in her 50s who ran a pottery studio on the ground floor. She liked that Isla worked in hospitality, said she appreciated people who understood service. "When can you move in?" the landlord asked. "December 1st, is that okay?" "Perfect. I'll draw up the lease." They signed papers at a coffee shop nearby. Isla put down first and last month's rent, got a key on a simple metal ring. "Congratulations," Luca said. "You're officially a Portlander." "I don't feel like a Portlander. I feel like an imposter." "Give it time." They walked around the neighborhood, found a grocery store, a bookstore, a coffee shop that roasted their own beans, a park with a view of the river. "You could live here," Isla said suddenly. Luca looked at her. "What?" "Not in my apartment, but in Portland. There's a film scene here, independent stuff, exactly what you said you wanted to try." "You want me to move to Portland?" "I want you to consider it as an option, not for me, for you, because you're trying to figure out what comes next and maybe it doesn't have to be LA. They sat on a bench by the river, watched the water flow past, gray and steady and constant. "I'd have to keep the LA house," Luca said slowly, "for work, for auditions." "Okay. And I'd be back and forth a lot, at least at first." "Okay. And we'd still be figuring this out. Us. It wouldn't magically fix everything." "I know, but we'd be figuring it out in the same city, in the same time zone. That has to count for something." Luca took her hand. "Let me think about it, really think about it. Not just jump because it sounds romantic or because I want to be near you. I need to make sure it's the right move for me." "I can respect that. But, for the record, I like the idea. A lot." Isla leaned her head on his shoulder, watched a duck paddle past, felt something settle in her chest. Not certainty, not quite, but close. "Thank you for coming with me," she said. "Thank you for asking me to." They sat there until the rain started again. Then they walked back to the car, hands linked, already planning their next trip. Portland in April was cherry blossoms and rain and coffee shops on every corner. Isla's apartment was small but bright, in a building walking distance from her office. Luca was there when she got home from her first day. He'd let himself in with the key she'd given him. Made dinner. Something simple but good. "How was it?" he asked. "Overwhelming. Exciting. I have so much to learn." "You'll be great." "You sound certain." "I am certain." He handed her a glass of wine. "You ran an inn by yourself for 10 years. This is just bigger scale, same principles." They ate on her tiny balcony, watching the city lights flicker on as the sun set. Luca had been splitting his time between LA and Portland for the past 2 months. A week here, 2 weeks there, making it work. "I got offered a role," he said. "The independent film. They want to shoot in Portland. 3-month production starting in June." Isla looked at him. "You said yes?" "I said I'd think about it, but yeah, I want to say yes." "What about LA? Your house? Your career?" "I'll keep the house. Go back for auditions in meetings when I need to. But I'm tired of making every decision based on what's good for my career. I want to make decisions based on what's good for me." He reached across the table, took her hand. "And right now, what's good for me is being here. With you. Seeing where this goes." Isla felt tears prick her eyes. "That's a big decision." "So was driving 12 hours to my house with no plan. So was taking a job in a city you'd never been to. We're both making big decisions. At least we're making them together." "No guarantees?" she asked. "No guarantees," he agreed. "Just showing up." They sat in comfortable silence as the city hummed below them. Not the ocean, not the inn, not the life either of them had planned, but something new, something theirs, something that felt like the beginning of a story instead of the end of one. Later that night, lying in bed, Isla's phone buzzed. A text from Jim. "Heard about the new job. Proud of you, kid. Your mom would be too." She showed Luca. He pulled her closer. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah, I think I'm happy." "You think?" "I'm learning how to be happy without guilt. It's new." He kissed the top of her head. "Take your time. We have time." And for the first time in 14 years, Isla believed him. Epilogue: The Return. 1 year later, they drove back to Shore's End, not to stay, just to visit, to see the inn under new management, to walk the beach, to have dinner at the diner where Isla used to waitress in high school. The inn looked different: fresh paint, new furniture, a sign advertising spa services in farm-to-table dining. The new owners had kept the name, Bennett's Inn. "Looks good," Luca said. "It does," Isla agreed, and meant it. They walked down to the pier, the same pier where they'd sat all those months ago, holding terrible coffee and pretending they weren't falling for each other all over again. "You know what I was thinking?" Luca said. "What?" "That day I showed up here, in the rain, you opened the door and I saw you and I couldn't breathe. I thought I'd made a terrible mistake." "Wow, romantic," he laughed. "Let me finish. I thought I'd made a mistake because I didn't know what I was doing there. I didn't have a plan. Just this desperate hope that maybe you'd still be here, that maybe I could fix what I broke." "Did you fix it?" "No, we built something new instead. Something better." He turned to face her. They were standing in almost the exact spot where they'd stood that first morning. "I'm glad I came back. I'm glad you let me stay. I'm glad I drove to LA like a crazy person. I'm glad you took the job. I'm glad you took the movie." He kissed her, soft and sweet. The ocean crashed below them. A seagull screamed overhead. When they pulled apart, Isla noticed a couple walking toward the inn. The woman looked familiar, the visitor from a year ago, the one who'd given her the check. The woman saw them, smiled, gave Isla a small wave. Isla waved back. "Who was that?" Luca asked. "Someone who helped me when I needed it." Isla laced her fingers through his. "Come on, Jim's expecting us for dinner." They walked back toward town, not running from anything, not running toward anything. Just walking, together, one step at a time. No guarantees, no promises of forever, just this moment, and the next one, and the one after that. And for now, that was enough.